You know, Diddy bought his son a Bentley. Maybe, you know, he could buy you one also while you're out.
He got me a Lamborghini.
Oh, well, that's nice.
I haven't gotten it yet, though.
Yeah, I know. When is that coming, that Lamborghini? We talked about this last time.
He had the Lamborghini for a day or two, and he had access to the house, and he knows better than to be talking about the things that he does with Big Brother Puff on national television.
Nobody expected Joe Rogan to be the one to break the silence. But when he sat down in front of the microphone that day, something was different. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't joking. He was focused, dead serious. He had just seen something that shook him deeply. What he uncovered about Justin Bieber's early career and the role that Sean Diddy Combs played behind the scenes wasn't just shocking, it was heartbreaking. And Joe knew he had to speak out.
So check this out, yo. Justin, you ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. They're having the times of their lives, like, you know, where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. You know, I have been given custody of him. You know, he signed to Usher.
I'm signed to Usher.
I had legal guardianship of Usher when you know he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So.
And good luck when you're older. You know, Justin Bieber had a post the other day on his Instagram talking about all the drugs that he did when he was younger and how much it fucked him up. And now he's got a relationship with the Lord, and he's married, and he's trying to be a normal person. Yeah, but he's struggling with the fact that he was insanely famous when he was a kid.
And then you have him come to audition for you, right?
Actually, with a few people. My wife at the time.
Right.
It also was Perry Reed, L.A. Reid's first wife.
So you were all sitting in a room somewhere?
We were in a room.
Yeah.
And I showed her the video. And Perry says, "Are you crazy? You better get down there and meet this kid right now. He's amazing."
When all these dick pics come out and all this stuff with Bieber's big penis, are you the mastermind behind that? Say, listen, show off your big penis and people will come to those concerts. Or are you sitting there?
Is that the kind of manager he's doing?
Usher, are you sitting down with him and saying, yeah, show your cock, or leave it in your pants? I mean, do you sit him down and say, look, part of this is PR,
Hey,
man.
by the way, he does have a brain of his own.
Yeah, but were you shocked at the size of his penis?
Hey, listen, he has a mind of his own. What he chose to do with his penis is his prerogative. He's managing that aspect of his life.
But Usher is somebody...
I have nothing to do with Justin Bieber's private parts, man.
Flown out to Atlanta by a manager. His name's Scooter Braun. Flown out to Atlanta just to meet with him and meet different producers and different people. I was actually going to meet Jermaine Dupri at his studio. And who rolls up? Usher in his Range Rover. Rolls up. And I was like, "Is that who I think it is?" And Scooter was like, "Yeah." And so I ran up to him and I was like, Usher, I love your songs. You want me to sing you one?" And he was like, let's just go inside, little buddy. It's cold out. So the politest possible way he could say no, he did. And I was like, wow, he just turned me down. And I was a little disappointed. He had to go into a studio session, so I was like, whatever. And a week later, he actually watched my videos with my manager and was like, "Oh my gosh, why didn't I let him sing?" So flew me back to Atlanta where I got to meet him again, and he wanted to sign me. But there was something else.
Justin Timberlake, right?
Yes, Justin Timberlake also wanted to sign me. It was what happened was Justin Timberlake and Usher both went into a ring and boxed it out. And the outcome was Usher. I think it was a TKO.
Because I think if a victim comes out against Usher, it'll show how egregious this shit is. Because if he can be a predator, then anybody can be a predator.
Can't smile in your face the whole time.
You feel what I'm saying? Like, people look at Usher, they don't see that. They're not seeing the victim. They're not seeing that boy that got rushed to the hospital. They're not seeing what the intentions was in his heart when he took Justin Bieber there.
Oh.
Let's be honest. He took Justin Bieber there. Diddy had been trying to get to Bieber for a minute. And his management was backing him off. But it wasn't until Usher took over management and had guardianship and gave temporary guardianship to the diddler for 48 hours. Think about that.
So many horrific accusations, though, involving young singers, like children.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
It's insane.
He makes R. Kelly look like a decent guy.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
It is crazy. And meanwhile, the guy was like hanging out with Oprah, hanging out with Obama.
Jay-Z,
Everybody.
I'm sure the Clintons were there at some point.
Maybe Bill.
He began the podcast with a simple sentence. This one's not easy. Listeners leaned in expecting controversy, maybe even a rant, but what they got was something else. A careful, emotional breakdown of what really happened to Justin Bieber when he was just a teenage boy in the music industry, and how Diddy's name kept showing up in places that raised big questions. It all started with a clip. An old interview from years ago where Diddy joked about having custody of Justin for a weekend. He smiled, made light comments, and claimed it was part of the mentorship process. But when Joe played it again, something felt off. Who says that about a 15-year-old? Joe asked. And why did no one ask questions back then? Joe didn't stop at one clip. He started digging. What he found was a pattern. Bieber was being pulled away from his regular team, flown to private locations, and scheduled into strange activities that had little to do with music. The more Joe looked, the more concerned he became. Records showed late-night travel, contracts had confusing language. There were days where Bieber vanished from public view and reappeared looking stressed and tired. The turning point came when Joe got access to a personal letter written by Bieber during one of those early mentorship trips. It wasn't long, just a few lines scribbled on hotel stationery, but the message was clear. I'm tired. I miss home. I don't want to be here. Joe read it on air, voice cracking as he paused between sentences. This is a kid asking for help, he said, and no one listened. That moment changed everything.
I always say this about Justin Bieber. When people hear about him going insane, like, of course he's going insane. You have no idea what it would be like to be him and to be 17 years old. And girls literally trying to break into his house. They're coming down chimneys. They're flying in on parachutes. They're doing anything they can. They just want to be around him. You want him to be normal?
Oh, man, poor guy.
What's going on with you guys? Are you working together?
I'm not. I mean, I think that we become friends in a strange way, you know?
Like Robin Big.
Yeah, it's like... Exactly.
I'm big and you're Robin.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's. To a lot of us, he's like a little brother. You know what I'm saying? He's not afraid to call and ask for advice. He's somebody that, in the industry-wise, the record industry is a strong family, and he's somebody that, you know, we definitely have our arms around, and we want to protect him because he's such genuinely a nice person. Besides his talent. You know what I'm saying? He's one of the greatest kids that you could ever know.
We had seen these videos of Justin Bieber being handed over to him at age 15. Great job. And for his weekend with Diddy camp. I mean, we don't know, but it certainly looks like Justin Bieber is still suffering the fallout from whatever happened to him as he was coming up the ranks of the music world. It really doesn't seem worth it. I mean, I'd love to hear more from his camp about what's real, because it's clear he's suffering. We just don't know from what. And what mother out there would give her 15-year-old boy over to a grown man who's in the rap industry for a weekend with Diddy camp without other adult supervision?
What's up, man? You good?
I'm good. How are you?
All right, young brother, everything's good?
Everything's
Selling
great.
out arenas and everything?
Yeah.
Starting to act different, huh? You ain't been calling me and hanging out the way we used to hang out.
Well, I mean, you try to get in contact with me, you know, through all my, partners and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But you never really got my number, so.
Right. Okay.
My number?
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you my number.
Yeah.
It's 555.
Yes. Okay.
5555.
Okay. 55. You heard that?
Yeah.
Okay.
He did an interview back in 2020 with Zane Lowe. I think this was on Apple Music. And he was speaking about another young artist that was coming up, Billie Eilish, and Eilish. And he was basically speaking about how he wanted to protect her because she was now another young person, a rising artist in the industry. And sort of out of nowhere, he became quite overcome with emotion.
The you of then was on a path of self-destruction.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I would have, for sure. 100%. Yeah. It would have been no bueno. It was bad. I don't know if I'd be alive, for sure. It was dark. So I'm very, very grateful
to have influences in my life that have played a huge part in me seeing their relationship with Jesus and their relationship with their wives and their relationship with their kids and saying that's what I want. But I want to definitely tell my story so that if that resonates to anybody, that they can hopefully. But yeah, just protecting those moments, because people take for granted encounters. And
months ago, I was really struggling mentally and emotionally, and just there was so many things that were adding up, and I wasn't able to enjoy any of the things that I own.
That stuff's not going to matter to you.
None of the actual things did anything, because I was so hurt and I was so confused and I was so sick, and there was all these things, and I was like, I can't, there's like, you just can't, like you said, you can't enjoy the actual physical, tangible, like, things that money offers, right?
Anyways, I want to also just show you this montage. This is a montage that was shared by Evie Magazine. They do great work on their TikTok of Justin Bieber, again, just 15 years old, in Hollywood, surrounded by a bunch of adults. And you let me know if any of this registers to you as normal. Take a listen.
Wow. I feel violated right now. Wow.
Lean into me again. You smell amazing. How old are you?
Thank you.
How old are you?
I'm 16. I'll be 17 in like 2 weeks.
I don't ever remember smelling that good at 16. Like that was bad.
Yeah.
Wow, look at your eyes. Look at what a beautiful face. All right, now it's time to...
People online went wild. The clip of Joe reading the letter was shared millions of times. Fans who had followed Bieber since the beginning started connecting the dots. "We thought he was being difficult," one person tweeted. "Turns out he was trapped in a system that didn't care." Support poured in from all directions. Even some other celebrities began dropping hints that they too had seen strange things during their time in the business. Meanwhile, Joe pushed forward. He brought in experts, former assistants, even security guards who had worked during those years. One security officer described trips where no managers were allowed, only Diddy's people. Another said he was instructed never to talk to Bieber directly. Joe kept asking the same question. Where were the adults? Where were the checks and balances? Then came the video. A grainy security clip from inside a hallway showed Justin walking with his guitar in the middle of the night. He looked exhausted, shoulders slumped, eyes low. Two assistants walked behind him. On a whiteboard visible through an open door, Joe's producer zoomed in on a list. It read, "Phone access limited. Rest optional. Focus sessions mandatory." Joe paused the frame. That's not mentoring. That's pressure. That's isolation. That's not how you help a teenager grow. From there, the story took on a life of its own. People from all corners of the industry began talking. Not on the record, not yet, but enough to make it clear. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a much larger issue that had been hidden for years. Young artists, pulled from normal life, pushed into extreme schedules, and expected to stay quiet if they wanted to stay successful. The more people spoke up, the more Rogan shared. He interviewed former performers who talked about mental exhaustion, lack of sleep, and not even being allowed to speak to their families for days. Joe's audience was shocked. "Why did we let this go on for so long?" one caller asked. "Because we were distracted by the lights," Joe replied. Backlash against Diddy grew fast. A major fashion brand dropped him. A streaming platform stopped promoting his music. A popular podcast network removed his episodes from their archives. Even longtime collaborators began distancing themselves, refusing to answer questions or changing the subject when his name came up. Diddy tried to respond with a short statement denying the claims, but it didn't help. The silence that once protected him was now working against him. And Joe kept applying pressure. "If there's nothing to hide," he said, "then let's see the full records. Let's talk about what happened on those trips." Legal experts began taking interest. One law firm began reviewing contracts from Bieber's early years. Another started interviewing other child performers who said they'd been through similar situations. Joe reminded his audience, this isn't about taking someone down. It's about protecting the next kid before it happens again. Mental health professionals joined the conversation. They explained how early fame can harm development, how working nonstop and being surrounded by people who only care about money can cause lasting damage. Joe nodded in agreement, saying, this is why so many young stars burn out. It's not weakness, it's the system. As the movement grew, Joe used his platform to raise money for organizations that help young artists. His listeners donated in record numbers. Advocacy groups began publishing guides for parents and young musicians, teaching them what signs to look out for, what questions to ask, and how to protect their kids from being exploited. Behind the scenes, change was beginning. Agencies rewrote rules. Studios created new guidelines. Managers started requiring extra approval before booking minors for overnight trips. It wasn't everything, but it was a start. Joe kept saying it. We don't need to destroy careers. We need to rebuild trust. And through it all, Justin Bieber stayed quiet. He didn't give interviews. He didn't join the podcasts, but he posted photos, peaceful moments, him with Hailey, him writing music, him in nature. Fans said he looked calm for the first time in years, and that silence spoke louder than words. Diddy's world, meanwhile, kept unraveling. More brands pulled away. Awards committees started reviewing past nominations. Talk shows stopped inviting him. Even friends in the industry began to disappear. One former collaborator tweeted, "I wish I'd spoken up sooner." Joe kept the conversation going. He brought on new guests every week. Therapists, industry insiders, even former stars who had vanished from the spotlight. They all said the same thing. This isn't just about one person, it's about a culture. He challenged major networks to air the full story. He invited Diddy to respond directly. "Come on the show," Joe said. "Tell your side, let's talk about it." But no one came. The silence was loud. More people sent messages to Joe, parents, teachers, former fans. One note stood out. It said, "Thank you for doing what no one else would. Thank you for finally saying what we've all been thinking." The story reached global media. Headlines ran everywhere. Joe Rogan exposes music industry secrets. Justin Bieber's early years come under new scrutiny. Diddy faces growing backlash over allegations. It was no longer just a podcast episode, it was a movement. Schools added mental health support for student performers. States considered new laws to protect minors in entertainment. Some managers were forced to step down, and all of it came back to one thing: Joe Rogan finally telling the truth out loud. He didn't do it for fame, he didn't do it for clicks, he did it because someone had to. He closed one of his final episodes on the topic with a promise. We're not done. Until the system changes, until kids are protected, until the silence breaks, we're going to keep talking. After weeks of public pressure, legal speculation, and mounting backlash, the storm around Diddy showed no signs of slowing down. What had started with a few bold statements from Joe Rogan had now turned into a deep crack in the entertainment industry. People in power were finally being asked tough questions, and the answers weren't looking good. While fans and reporters focused on headlines, something more serious was happening behind the curtain. Powerful names in music and media were scrambling, managers were holding private meetings, legal teams were quietly reviewing old agreements, record labels were looking through past artist deals to make sure they didn't have similar problems on their hands. No one wanted to be the next story on Joe Rogan's show. For years, Diddy had been considered untouchable. He built an image that combined wealth, charm, and control, but now all of that was cracking. Some of his closest allies stopped picking up the phone. Business partners delayed meetings. A few longtime collaborators quietly removed mentions of him from their websites and profiles. It wasn't just about protecting their image, it was about avoiding the fallout that followed him like a storm cloud. Joe continued covering the developments, not with anger, but with a calm sense of duty. He said the point wasn't to cancel anyone, but to shine a light on a broken system. "This isn't a personal attack," he said. "It's a wake-up call." Behind the scenes, major organizations started pulling their support. One influential music charity ended its partnership with Diddy's company. A television network canceled a project that had been in development for over a year. An awards show pulled his name from its promotional list and told producers not to mention him on air. These weren't small moves, they were signs of a real shift. Lawyers across the industry were watching everything closely. One firm specializing in entertainment law confirmed that they were helping clients review mentorship agreements signed in their teens. Some of these documents, they said, were vague and lacked proper protections. Joe invited one of the attorneys onto his show. She explained how the contracts left minors vulnerable and how industry power was often used to silence young voices. Meanwhile, a second wave of artists began stepping forward. Some were lesser known, others had once been on the rise but had disappeared from the spotlight. Now they were finding their courage again. One former pop singer said she had always wondered what happened to Bieber behind the scenes because she had gone through something similar. She described being sent away for mentorship sessions that felt more like isolation. "We were told this was how you earned your place," she said. But it always felt wrong. Joe played her interview and paused afterward. "These stories aren't rare," he said. "They've just been buried." In the music world, younger artists began speaking more freely about their rights. Several posted videos online explaining their schedules, sharing their contracts, and encouraging others to do the same. For the first time, artists were taking control of their own stories, and fans were supporting them fully. One surprising moment came when a well-known producer released a statement supporting Joe's message. He said he had worked with Diddy years ago and had seen moments that made him uncomfortable. He didn't go into detail, but the message was loud enough. More people knew something was wrong, and they were finally ready to admit it. Public opinion continued to shift. A petition asking for better protections for underage artists passed 500,000 signatures in just a few days. Influencers started using their platforms to call for reform. Even small record labels began updating their mentorship policies and making those changes public. They wanted to be part of the solution, not part of the cover-up. Through all this, Diddy remained mostly silent. His team issued short responses, often filled with vague language. But each time they did, it only raised more questions. Why wasn't he defending himself directly? Why hadn't he explained the letter from Bieber? Or the footage? Or the schedules? Silence, once seen as a sign of power, now felt like confirmation. Meanwhile, Rogan expanded the discussion beyond just Diddy. He started looking at other areas of the entertainment world where young people were under pressure. He invited guests from the film industry, the sports world, and even from tech startups. Each one shared the same concerns. When youth is combined with fame and money, things can spiral quickly without the right protections. One actor told a story about being pushed to perform while sick because producers didn't want to delay filming. A gymnast described being praised for discipline while hiding exhaustion and anxiety. Joe listened, nodded, and said, "This is a pattern. We have to start connecting the dots." At the same time, fans were doing their own investigations. They found old interviews, tweets, and footage of young artists expressing stress, confusion, or sadness, moments that now took on new meaning. They weren't just outbursts, they were warnings, and no one had listened. Rogan said this was why telling the truth mattered. "If we ignore the signs, we're helping it happen again," he said. "But if we speak up now, we can stop it." And the speaking didn't stop. Music schools began changing their course materials. They added lessons on industry, safety, mental wellness, and artist rights. Some schools even brought in former artists to speak honestly with students. For many young performers, it was the first time they were hearing the truth before signing anything. Major publications wrote long features about how the Diddy scandal had forced the industry to confront its past. Articles traced the history of mentorship programs and how they had shifted over time, from helpful guidance to something more controlling. They explained how fame had been used as a trade-off for silence, but now that trade no longer worked. More advocacy groups formed. One launched a hotline for underage performers to report concerns confidentially. Another created a guidebook for parents of young talent. A third offered legal aid for artists reviewing past contracts. Joe promoted them all on his show, saying, we're not just talking anymore. We're building something better. The movement reached its peak when an international music federation released a public statement calling for global industry reform. They asked for standardized rules for managing youth talent, mandatory wellness checks, and the creation of oversight boards. Countries around the world began paying attention. And still, Joe kept showing up. Every week he shared more stories, some painful, some hopeful. He interviewed survivors who had turned their trauma into strength. He spoke with policy experts helping change the law. He gave space to families who had watched their children suffer silently. He reminded everyone that this was never about clicks or headlines. It was about safety. It was about human decency. You don't need to be famous to deserve protection, he said. You just need to be seen. Eventually, even people who had once defended Diddy began changing their tone. A few made public apologies. Some said they hadn't known the full story. Others admitted they had seen signs but didn't speak out. Joe said forgiveness was possible, but only if it came with honesty. As for Justin Bieber, he remained calm, quiet, focused. He posted a message thanking his fans for their love. He said he was still healing, still growing, and finally at peace. It wasn't loud, but it meant everything. By the end of the second month, Joe's original podcast had inspired thousands of conversations, policy shifts, and personal awakenings. It wasn't just a story anymore. It was a reckoning. A reminder that when the truth is spoken, it can't be hidden again. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like the industry was truly listening.